This is Jocko Podcast number 136 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Who are these? Why sit they here in twilight? Wherefore rock they, purgatorial shadows, drooping tongues from jaws that slob their relish, bearing teeth that leer like skulls' teeth, wicked? Stroke on stroke of pain. But what slow panic gouged these chasms round their fretted sockets? Ever from their hair and through their hands, palms, misery swelters. Surely we have perished sleeping and walk in hell. But who these hellish? These are men whose minds the dead have ravished. Memory fingers in their hair of murders, multitudinous murders they once witnessed. Wading sloughs of flesh, these helpless wander, treading blood from lungs that had loved laughter. Always they must see these things and hear them, batter of guns and shatter of flying muscles, carnage incomparable, and human squander rucked too thick for these men's extrication. Therefore, still, their eyeballs shrink tormented back into their brains. Because on their sense, sunlight seems a blood smear. Night comes blood black. Dawn breaks open like a wound that bleeds afresh. Thus, their heads wear this hilarious, hideous, awful falseness of set, smiling corpses. Thus their hands are plucking at each other, picking out rope couts of their scourging. Snatching after us who smote them. Brother, pawing us who dealt them war and madness. And that is a poem. It's a poem called Mental Cases. And it's a poem that was written by Wilfred Owen. He wrote it in 1918. He was a British poet, but he was also a British soldier. And he was wounded in the First World War. He was blown up by a trench mortar, and then he spent several days unconscious, lying with the shredded remains of one of his fellow officers. And with those wounds, he was also diagnosed with shell shock. And he was sent to a place called Craig Lockhart Hospital, which is where they sent these soldiers to be treated. And there he recovered to some extent. And then he went back to the front. And on October 1st in 1918, he led a unit from the 2nd Manchesters as they assaulted enemy positions in John Court, And he was awarded the Military Cross for that action. And on the 4th of November, 1918, 7 days prior to November 11th, which was the end of the war, Wilfred Owen was killed in action. He was shot by a German machine gunner.